The original Digimon World is one of my favorite games of all time. It's unfortunate that the series diverted from that VPET gameplay, but it makes sense in hindsight why that decision was made. It sold somewhat modestly, reaching 1 million units, but I think Bandai just expected it to come up much larger than it did. This is probably because the anime was wildly popular back in the day, as was the virtual pet. Digimon World was critically mixed when it released due to it being confusing. The game did a horrible job at explaining its mechanics, so let's talk about why I love this mess of a game. To talk about Digimon World, we must go back to 1997. This was the year that Digimon debuted as a franchise. Digimon started life as a clone of Tamagotchi. Bandai wanted to follow up this massive hit with a similar idea. An employee by the name of Akiyoshi Hongo decided to use Tamagotchi as an influence to make a Tamagotchi for boys. Versions 1 through 4 were released in 1997 in Japan due to strong sales. A 5th version followed in 1998, but no Digimon featured on it made it to Digimon World. Bandai then published various video games in its first anime series, Digimon Adventure, in 1998 and 1999. Digimon World was the most successful of the video game batch, and the only one to be released worldwide in the following years. I want to touch on the title screen and the opening video real quick. I love the simplicity of the title screen. There's not much going on. Just the logo that the anime would adapt with a green wireframe in the background. It's neat, and I kind of look at this as a sneak peek to Mount Infinity. The opening involves the protagonist running to his friends who are all battling with their Digimon virtual pets. They are battling one another, and then the video dives into one of the virtual pets. In there, it shows Metal Mamimon and Metal Greymon duking it out. This intro is sick as hell, and I love how it demonstrates that the game very much dives into the virtual pets. I also love the sound effects that occur when picking menus. The bleeps and blues that it makes, it gives that digital vibe that the game is going for. The story is simple. A kid comes home and finds his Digimon virtual pet on the table. Quigimon is inside of it and starts yelling. It then sucks the kid into a place called the Digital World. He unites with either his Agumon or Gabumon to retrieve Digimon back to File City. Pick day to receive Agumon. If the player picks night, they will start with Gabumon. And that's basically it. The player gets thrust into the game pretty quickly. Digimon tells the player to go recruit Digimon with very little direction. I love how the game gives the player the story in chunks about the events of the Digimon splitting up. Cherrymon and Misty Trees tells the player about the Digimon splitting up. Andromon and Factorial Town tells the player about the humans that are on File Island before him. Little moments like this pop up every now and then, and it's great to see it all come together. Eventually, the protagonist reaches the final boss, a guy named Analog Man. He tries to destroy the digital world with his Digimon named Machinedramon, but inevitably, the protagonist destroys his creation and escapes Mount Infinity's explosion with Analog Man still inside of it. The protagonist can finally go back home, but he can also visit the digital world at any time. Basically, the main gameplay is looking after your Digimon partner. Since the game is based on the virtual pets, your Digimon will need to eat, shit, sleep, and rest. If the player fails to do one of these, it might be considered a care mistake. Just like the virtual pets, Digimon have multiple stages: Baby, In-Training, Rookie, Champion, and Ultimate. In order to get the Digimon you want, you have to fill in 3 of the 4 criteria. Let's outline each of them below. First one is condition. This is pure stats. Lots of champions require one specific stat to be at 100 to fill this requirement. Some of the better ones, like Greymon or Garurumon, require multiple. Stats can be raised in the green gym and through battling. Good ultimates usually require insane stats. The second one, as mentioned before, is the number of care mistakes. Going to the bathroom on the ground, letting a sleep bubble run out, or letting a hunger bubble run out counts as a care mistake. There are even more rules about care mistakes. Like sometimes, not feeding counts as 2, shitting on the ground doesn't count if your Digimon does it while it's sleeping. Nothing is clear in this game, man. The third one is weight. This is the simplest one, as it's simply plus or minus 5 of the target weight. The last one is a bonus condition, which can be goddamn anything, I swear. Knowing enough techniques, having a certain Digimon, having a certain amount of happiness, having a certain amount of discipline. There's a lot of criteria here. Now this may make sense if this was told to you in the game, or if the Prima guide on the game was actually useful. Guess what though? Neither one of those things are true here. Many Digivolution requirements in this damn book are just wrong. This means that the game is actually better to get into now more so than back in the day. This game is insanely fun with the internet guides that have been proven correct. The satisfaction of getting a Digimon that you were aiming for is such a good one. Some Digimon like Poyomon and Togemon will give you some help, items, and overall guidance, but for a game as complex as this, it's simply not enough. There is a lot of trial and error in simply figuring things out on your own. As stated before, there's the Green Gym. It's located right next to File City, and you'll spend a lot of the game here. It's a straight-up grind at a certain point, and there's very little getting around it. There are some other trading spots littered through the game, like an Ice Sanctuary, Misty Trees, and Gear Savannah. There are 6 stations to train at the Green Gym, and every single training session takes an hour. Let's go over them and talk about the stats and what they do, shall we? Offense. Pretty easy, just raises the amount of damage your Digimon partner does. The actual training session involves your partner hitting a tree stump. The training session also slightly increases speed. Defense. Also pretty easy. It determines the amount of damage taken from an enemy move. The actual training station is just a giant glove that punches your Digimon right in the face. For some stupid reason, this also slightly increases brains. Speed. The higher this is, the less amount of time your Digimon will stand around in between commands. Very important stat. The training session is, you guessed it, running. It also increases health a small bit. HP or hit points. When When this hits 0, your Digimon may be in pretty big trouble. Digimon can be revived with an item. Digimon have 3 hearts and they'll lose 1 when they go down in a battle and can't be revived. If the Digimon goes down in battle 3 times, something bad will happen. The training session involves your Digimon pushing a boulder. Doing this will also increase your Digimon's attack stat. MP. When your Digimon attacks, it will consume MP. If this reaches 0 in a fight, your Digimon won't be able to use any moves besides their finisher. The training session involves your Digimon sitting underneath a waterfall. This will also slightly increase your Digimon's defense stat. Brains. This opens up the amount of commands that you can yell at your Digimon in combat. Your Digimon may learn a move from this training session too, which is neat. The station involves a blackboard that your Digimon studies. This will also increase MP slightly. If you're brave enough, you can try the bonus challenge. This is where you line up 3 symbols, but damn, this thing is rigged. The RNG manipulation that speedrunners use in this game is amazing. They manipulate the RNG so they can get 3 of the golden poops, which will make your Digimon receive 80 plus or 800 plus in case for HP and MP, which would normally take several training sessions to do, and that's valuable in-game time, man. You can skip a training session animation by hitting the O button. Be aware, if you train a Digimon too hard, a sweat bubble will appear above their head. When this happens, this means that they are too fatigued and they need to rest in either Digimon or Centauromon's hospital. If you make a Digimon push through it, their stats will only increase by 1 per training session. Their happiness and discipline will also go down a metric shitload if you keep making them work at it. Let them rest, damn it. Now we have to go over the battling, and the battling is a unique beast in Digimon World. Many have the misconception that his shell is a puddle. It's very easy to understand why. When you first start off with Agumon or Gabumon, you only have 2 commands: your call and run away. Fuck, man. Riveting gameplay, I know. When a Digimon gains more brains, it can learn attack at 100, moderate at 200, change orders and stay away at 300, defense at 400, and its own moves at 500. Not to mention, there are 2 main ways to learn moves: watching an opponent use the attack or pray that they learn it in the Green Gym's brains or defense training sessions. There are 7 types and a Digimon can be up to 3. This determines what moves they can learn. For example, Metal Greymon is a machine, battle, and fire Digimon in that order. This means that he can learn mostly, or in this case all, machine moves, a decent amount of battle moves, and hardly any fire moves. Some Digimon are stuck with 1 type, meanwhile others have 2 or 3. Types have natural strengths and weaknesses that will make the Digimon receive or deal more damage, but I don't find this influence the gameplay too much. It's kind of unfortunate that the best tactic is just to buy a shitload of items and just chuck them at your Digimon during battle. Beware though, if you end the fight and your partner is low in health, they may get injured. If you leave them injured long enough, then they'll get sick. If they're sick for long enough, they'll lose one of their 3 hearts, which I'll get into later. Every Digimon also gets a finisher. When activated, a glowing yellow ring will surround your Digimon partner. When this happens, it is your duty to mash the ever-loving shit out of R1 and L1. There is a power ball that will gradually fill as the player mashes these buttons. There are a total of 56 techniques in the game, and they're broken down into 7 types. The types on display here are fire, ice, nature, air, machine, battle, and filth. The variety of the moves on display are pretty great, with each type having 8 moves. Some moves cover up the whole screen, like Aura Freeze, DG Dimension, or Meltdown. Some moves are close-range attacks, like Sonic Jab, Megaton Punch, or Horizontal Kick. Some are more mid-range moves, like Thunder Justice or Ice Needle. Some rate stats, like Full Potential, War Cry, and Mass Morph. Certain moves can also cause inflictions on your Digimon partner or the enemy. First is Paralysis, which is simply that your Digimon can't move for a bit. Then you have Poison, which is easily the most brutal. Your Digimon can only walk and they receive passive poison damage. This is brutal because mobility is super important in fighting. Then Confusion is a bitch. Your Digimon won't listen to you and will fumble all over the damn place. Lastly, there's Flattening, and whoever came up with this deserves a raise. It's simply the best status infliction in all of gaming. The Digimon will convert down to their VPET counterpart. While they're in this form, they cannot block attacks and they can only use 1 move, which is shooting on a projectile like how they would in the VPETs. God, I love this status infliction. As I said before though, there are 56 moves. How do you learn all of them if your Digimon can only be up to 3 types at most? Well, do you remember how Tamagotchis and other virtual pets die? Champion Digimon should live for roughly 15 days. If one can get an ultimate, 4 more days are added onto the clock. Keep in mind that your Digimon's life largely depends on how high their happiness and discipline are. It should also be noted that your partner has 3 hearts. If your Digimon faints in a battle and you fail to revive it, or your Digimon is sick for an extended amount of time, your Digimon will lose 1 of its hearts. If your Digimon loses all 3 hearts, it will die of unnatural causes. When your Digimon dies, it uses the last of its energy to convert its own data into an egg. If the player was careless and lost a Digimon to unnatural causes, such as the 2 methods above, some moves won't be passed down. There are 4 eggs based on the 4 versions of the virtual pet. Their stats start out abysmally terrible if your tamer level is low, so your first few reincarnations are going to be pitifully weak. The tamer level gets increased by raising Ultimate Digimon, specific Champion Digimon, or completing a medal. Baby and in-training Digimon should stay in the Green Gym because their only attack is weak as shit. As such, Digimon World creates this interesting gameplay, where the player has to balance raising a Digimon stats, recruiting Digimon to the city, managing items and food, and getting money. There's a lot on the plate, and I've seen many rants online about how this game blows because they're bad at it. It's completely understandable. No game's really played like this either. As I said before, for better or worse, Digimon World is really its own beast. Digimon World's main problem simply stemmed from that. but that's why I love it. A lot of games simply tell you where to go and what to do. It's refreshing to see a game dump the player somewhere and say, figure it out, dipshit. In a world of video games where every fucking AAA title is, look, you have a gun, go to location, shoot enemy, repeat please. It's very nice to see a game that is wholly unique. I adore the interactions with the Digimon. The scolding and praise commands are hilarious, watching them shit is funny and weird, and it may seem small, but I love how when you feed the Digimon, they actually take the food from your hands and eat it. Not to shit on Redigitize or Next Order, because those are fun games too, but small actions like this make World 1 feel much more personal than its sequels. I haven't even taken the time to talk about recruiting Digimon yet, have I? God, this game is time-consuming to even describe. When you start your adventure, File City is bare. One of my favorite things about this game is simply watching File City grow bigger. Digimon will usually join the city after you fight them, but some require other means, like playing a game of curling, answering questions correctly, saving them from a shifting landscape, or running an errand for them. When they join the city, you'll notice that more buildings pop up. An arena will be built once Greymon's defeated. A restaurant will appear once Meramon or Tyrannomon join the city. Centaurimon will open up a hospital. Dromojimon drills a cave for treasure hunting. Betamon and Saolamon open up an item shop. Agumon opens up a storage shop. Vegemon and Palemon open up a bigger meat field. Bakumon patrols the city. Elecmon turns on the lights. Both Kabuterimon and Quagimon power up the gym equipment. It's super satisfying to watch the city grow and watch the game get easier with each new generation of Digimon. It also needs to be said, that theme that plays when you recruit a Digimon in the city is simply amazing. The OST is such a banger. I love how it mixes epic music with nice calm ones so well. I always whistle or hum the File City night theme when it's on. The green gym and native forests are also peaceful with the birds chirping, and the battle themes get me going. The Machinedramon theme may be my favorite in the game, and it's pretty high up there for my favorite themes in all of gaming. It's just so badass. I also appreciate how much variety is in Digimon World's locations. There is Friesland, Grand Canyon, Native Forest, Gear Savannah, Trash Mountain, Greylord's Mansion, Mount Infinity, Factorial Town, Beetle Land, Toy Town. Each location has morning and night themes, which is a great touch. Different opponent Digimon will also be wandering depending on the type of day. Speaking of time, each second counts as a minute, so an in-game day is 24 minutes. Battling takes about a half hour, while a training session will take up a full hour. Keep in mind, your Digimon partner will need to sleep for a good few hours too. A year is a full 30 days, and in fact, there is a medal for playing 10 in-game years. I'll get to those damn medals later. I adore the Digimon's designs. This was back when Digimon was just this game of the virtual pet for the most part, so the design philosophy was to make them cool, but simple. This was to try to make them appeal to boys, but still be easily displayable on the virtual pet screen. Designs like Agumon, Bakumon, Numamon, Monzimon, Betamon, Poyomon, Waymon, Skullgreymon, and my personal favorite, Digitamamon, are just so sick. The game also added new Digimon too, such as Machinedramon, Hercules Kabuterimon, Phoenixmon, and Penguinmon, and they're so good. This roster is nearly perfect. It just sucks that the anime came out after this, so some Digimon such as Gomamon or Togemon simply aren't here, and some such as Tentomon are reserved to only an enemy role. Some version 5 Digimon such as Datamon would have also been sick. I also really like when games have a good post-game. To open Mount Infinity and beat Machinedramon, you only need 50 prosperity points out of the 100 that are available. When a rookie joins the city, it counts as 1 prosperity point. When a champion joins, it counts as 2. And finally, an ultimate counts as 3. However, Numamon, Sukumon, and Antimon are such shitheads that the game only counts them as 1. It should be noted that some Digimon, like Gekomon, can only join the area. I think this means that they'll participate in tournaments, but they don't actually give you prosperity points? I don't know, I'm not quite sure on that one. Another thing that the player can try to achieve is to get all medals. Some of them medals are just so time-consuming it's straight up hard to get. I remember when I threw my phone at the wall as hard as I could, but I only got a 9 in Penguinmon's stupid curling game. Another fun thing to do is to fill out the Digivolution chart. It's so much fun raising all these guys and taking notes on their strengths and weaknesses. They train stats differently, go to bed at different times, have wildly different animations, learn different battle moves. God, I love this game. The last thing to point out here is that the Digimon can be one of 3 attributes. One of them is Vaccine attribute, and it displays a little pill. They are able to go into Ice Sanctuary. Then the Virus Digimon are noted by that evil face and they can enter Greylord's Mansion. Data Digimon are displayed by the floppy disk, and I guess they can go fuck themselves. They get no special treatment. A Digimon's attribute will also determine if the enemy Digimon will fight you. It simply boils down to this. If they're the same attribute, they may not fight. That's really about it for the Digimon's attributes. Speaking of post-game, we gotta talk about the back dimension. Once you beat Machinedramon, every 28 days or so, Digimon will tell the player that Analog Man and Machinedramon have returned. They are hiding in either Ogremon's Fortress, Ice Sanctuary, or Greylord's Mansion. If you pick correctly, instead of going into said place, you'll enter a wireframe area that looks and sounds similar to Mount Infinity. There are cool items in here, though they only spawn once, unfortunately. Every time you beat Machinedramon, though, you are rewarded a Chain Melon from Digimon. This item increases your Digimon's lifespan by 20 in-game hours, so it may be the most valuable item in the game. This was such a mind-blowing secret to find out when I was younger. And no, it doesn't matter what type your Digimon is. If you have a Data Digimon, you're not screwed. In this footage, actually, I entered the back dimension through the Ice Sanctuary with Megaseedramon, who is a Data-type Digimon. I'm also a huge fan of all the items on display. With a game as complex as this, there are over 100 items when all is said and done, and all of them have cute little artwork. I love that kind of shit more than I should. From food items, to training enhancers, to HP items, to MP healing, to Digivolution items, to items that are meant for selling, there are just so much here. There are also a few items such as the training manual or rest pillow that the player has to hold for them to take effect. Some standouts include the autopilot, which takes a player back to the city, the Misty Egg, because that's one way to get my boy Digitamamon, the Porta Potty, because it sucks the shit on the floor, the Sirloin for making Digimon super full and reducing fatigue, the training manual because it increases stats during training sessions, and the double flop for restoring both HP and MP by 1,500. There are also some key items such as the fishing rod, which opens up another minigame. Fishing is a good time, but it can get tricky to get used to. The player has to reel in the fish without putting too much tension on the line. Digimon World isn't only single player, you know. There's a Digivice-digital pet that is in Digimon's house where you can save your Digimon. This will save the Digimon itself, their current stats, and the moves they know. You can also save the game here, which is nice because the only other time that you can save the game is when they fall asleep. It's a fun little throwaway that my brother and I have done a few times. You can do a 1v1, 3v3, or 5v5. The fights themselves are still only 1v1. If you pick the other options, there are just more battles. There are 3 stages here, which are Greymon's Coliseum, the Beetleland Arena, and the Extra Arena. Nice name, guys. However, this is the objective best one because it plays that sick Machinedramon final boss music. There's not too much else to say here other than if you beat Machinedramon, you can pick him with the stats equal to your partner Digimon that you beat him with the first time, which is a cool little secret. The gameplay that has been on display is a mix of a new file that I started for this video and what I call my virgin file. If you need any evidence I don't get pussy, this is great evidence to jump on. That total of 190-ish hours isn't even close to how much time I've spent in this damn game. My overall time in this could easily be doubled. I've restarted so many times for 100% prosperity runs, and had to reset this file too, just due to mess ups and other shit as well. I've done virtually everything in this file, including getting all the medals. I swear, probably like only 100 people have done this legitimately. Digimon World is the first game that I remember playing, so it holds a very special place in my heart. Digimon World is a game that I'm constantly playing. Whether it's just to get 100% prosperity again, just watch the city grow, or it's just to mess around in the version file, I always have a blast with this game. Digimon World is a solid 7 out of 7 and is easily in my top 5 favorite games of all time. I love this shit, man.